Okay, this is the practice for golfers. Here are the tools we're going to use. I have 2 yoga blocks available to me, and I have a bath or a beach towel folded up. And I also have this long pole, so this could be a broomstick, a golf club. This is just a piece of PVC piping. Additionally, I am also going to use the bench. So make sure you have a chair or some other tool nearby. Toward the end of the practice, we'll use the bench. So here's how we'll get started. First pose, a seated newborn pose. So for this pose, perhaps a block or the folded up towel as a place to sit your hips. Feet forward on the floor, set wide and really comfortable, wherever that setting is for you. Then wrap your arms, just drape them around your shins. Pull your belly button back into your spine, and like you're lifting up and over a beach ball, just round up and over and rest your head hanging down toward the floor. You could even do this seated with your forehead on a table in front of you, like when you put your head down in elementary school on your desk. So right away already I can feel tension at the base of my skull, down through my neck, even out into my shoulders, and then in areas down through my spine all the way toward my sitting bones. So take this pose in such a way that you could be comfortable sitting here for a little bit of time. Now we're never going to worry about how long we hold things in this particular practice. You could set the timer though on your phone as a stopwatch to just count up and let you know exactly how long it is you're holding things. But most of all, what we would like to tap into is something called a felt sense. So your inner knowing, your inner ability to listen to your body's cues and respond. So set your gaze on one point on the floor. I can see right about here in the center between my feet, a spot to set my gaze. Soften your eyelids and gaze softly through your eyes. Then take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold the breath for just a beat, and then slowly exhale through your mouth. Hold the empty space for a beat. Inhale through your nose, and exhale. As your body relaxes more, you might notice the spot where you're focusing your gaze moves a little bit closer to where you're sitting as you become a little more flexible. Keep your breath flowing and keep your gaze focused. Now with your eyes on this spot and your breath flowing steady, 3 counts to inhale, a pause, 3 counts to exhale, and a pause. Keep on flowing just like that, the quality of your breath being a total of 4 counts, with the 4th count being a hold, a pause of either the fullness or the emptiness. Ensure that the 3rd count of an inhale or an exhale is just as strong as the 1st count was. Keep on building and developing your breath. After a few breaths, when you feel like you've got that pattern set, take another deep breath in. Exhale through your mouth and sigh, and just let your shoulders settle deeper and heavier down your back. Continue your pattern of breathing. 4 counts to your inhale, 4 counts to your exhale, with the 4th count being the pause. Now as you breathe in, you've got that pattern set. Put your attention on a line of stretch from the base of your skull. You can use your fingertips to find and locate a brain-body connection of where the base of your skull is. No pressure down, just locating. And then all the way down the length of your spine to the sitting bones. You can feel sitting on the towel on the floor. Breathe and become aware of the connection from your skull down to your sitting bones. Opening up that space, softening your back. You can imagine, your imagination is such a great tool in changing your body. In your imagination, just imagine some support in the front of your body from your breath, and the back of your body changing and opening just a little bit at a time, like your breath is a balloon blowing your body up
And then as the breath leaves, it softens and leaves behind some space. Take just one more breath here. You're probably already noticing the back of your body feels like it opened, and it also feels complete. That's when you know it's time to move on, different than what's on the clock. Once that last breath is released, place your hands on the floor for support and take your time. Imagine pressing your feet, your sitting bones, and your fingertips into the ground. Lift up the pit of your belly button. Each one of your ribs, imagine you're rolling up through the front of your spine, stacking it up from your sitting bones all the way up through your neck, your ears, and to the crown of your head, and look forward. Take one more breath in, and a full breath out. Now swing your legs around to the side. You can move the towel out from beneath you, move it to the side. Get ready for the cat and cow stretches. Palms on the ground, knees on the ground. If you have the ability to look in a mirror, the reflection in the window, or your phone, look to see that your waist isn't sagging, your middle back isn't humping and rounding. In fact, take a few breaths. You'll set your gaze right up here in the front center of your mat, and then imagine a large cat in the wild, like a leopard. If you've ever watched a leopard move, its upper back doesn't hump and round up out of its arm bones and shoulder blades. In fact, it kind of sits and settles so that the arm bones are almost longer. So eyes on your front and center, drishti point, palms underneath of your shoulders, knees set hip width distance and toes turned under. Lower abdominals firming in like they're hugging to the inside front side of your spine. And with your eyes on one point, settle into this neutral space, letting your chest just sink heavier toward the floor and your arm bones get a little taller to the ceiling until you discover, if you looked to the side, you're in a neutral space with your whole spine. Now, when we start to move to the cat and cow stretches, whether it's the cat or the cow, initiate the movement from your tailbone. Cat and cow stretches are easy to just bob your rib cage up and down, and it doesn't give us everything we could have from the movement. So soft elbows, not so much pressure in your wrist, so the quality of your belly lifting. Let it give you a light quality in your wrists. And then as you breathe, let your arm bones get a little taller. Here we go. Take a deep breath in. Now when you exhale, start to tuck your tailbone and lift the lowest abdominal muscles. And you can feel the action of my hamstrings helping to tilt my pelvis. Pause, take another breath in. As you exhale, pull the pit of your belly in toward the inside front of your spine. Now your belly button and your lowest ribs, your chest. Choose to move your gaze back toward your knees and drop your chin. Stay right here and take 2 breaths. As you exhale, just relieve the tension in your shoulders, your neck. Let the weight of your head draw your neck down long and have your neck hang freely. As you inhale, feel the expansion of the balloon of your lungs starting to stretch out and make space in your middle back. One more breath here. Exhale, blow the air out through your mouth and get very tall toward the ceiling of the center of your spine. And now we'll start to shift positions. So on your next inhale, start to tilt your tailbone up. Nothing about the top part of your spine will change just yet. Lowest abdominals can start to sink and drop to the ground through your belly button, your ribs. You can start to see your chest moving forward between your arms, and your gaze can start to move back to the front center. Set your shoulders back to your hips, up to the ceiling, and then on purpose, unwind your neck to as far as it is comfortable, probably just looking across the room about where the floor meets the wall. Pause right here and breathe. As you're breathing, the balloon inside of your lungs expanding and relaxing. Imagine as you breathe in, you're filling up space, pushing to the edge of the pose, the edge of your comfort zone. And when you exhale, you become aware of more space in the area of your middle back. Keep on breathing, letting your arm bones be tall to the ceiling. Your chest move between your arms and forward in front of you. For the next breath, lift your chin just a little more until you feel the point-to-point stretch from your chin down through your neck, between your collarbones, down through your sternum, through your soft abdomen, all the way to your pubic bone. Now we're going to move between the two positions. So take another breath in, and just in one breath, we'll move to the opposite, from the cat to the cow pose and back and forth. Tilt at the tail, lift at the belly, press into the floor, move your chin, look at your thighs, then tilt your tail up. Imagine that the front side of your spine is stretching long and down to the ground, chest forward, all the way until you feel your neck stretch. Tailbone goes first. Blow out as you move to the arched Halloween cat back position. Keep on going. Develop a regularity and a rhythm, moving to the pace of your breath, looking for the point-to-point stretch. Chin to pubic bone, and then sitting bones to the base of your skull. Breathe in, move forward. Tailbone first. Tailbone first, breathe out. And feel your sitting bones working, your hamstrings working. Back and forth a few times. Wherever you start to become aware that you have a place in your body that's holding, tense, resisting the movement, take an exhale and relax that particular area. Keep moving yourself on the edge of your comfort zone. Though this seems like a very simple exercise, it does a lot to bring mobility back into your spine from bottom to top, front and back. Now come to a cat stretch. Turn your toes under, press the floor away so I don't feel heaviness in my wrists. These are my handstand hands pressing the floor. Come to the very round body. Now we have 4 points: knee, knee, hand, hand. Shift weight into your left knee, into your left hand, right knee. Clockwise, stirring around through your shoulders. You can feel an incredible stretch from the tips of my shoulder blades into my spine. So about 3 clockwise, and then go counterclockwise for 3 cow circles. I'm sorry, cat. Complete the last one. From the tailbone, return to the long, flat, neutral back where we began, and yet completely different. Let your chest settle down to the floor in the neutral body, and the legs of your arms get tall like a leopard. Now walk your fingertips forward. Bring your hips back toward your heels like a puppy pose, different from child's pose. You're high up on your knees, hips moving toward your feet. We're going to use the Halloween cat back to move through this position. So we always start at the tailbone. Tuck the tail, lift the lowest pit of the belly. Start to get round in your Halloween cat back and roll forward, all the way forward until you can drop your hips, sort of like an upward dog. Don't worry about really dropping your belly right now. Tuck your chin, press into the floor, lift your chest. Might be a little easier with my hands closer back, and round back. So a rolling wave through your whole body and spine. Lift up, lift the pit of the belly, and roll on through. A lot of weight moving through my shoulders. I can drop my hips a little further each time. Lift the chest and look up. I wouldn't want to sag at my lower back. I want to keep my belly strong and a tension there. We'll get deeper in time. Tuck the chin, press. Move the chest up through the arm bones to the ceiling. Move the ribs up, the belly button up, the lower belly up, and roll back. Keep on going like this in this rolling wave several times. All the way around, up and through. You'll get a little further to the upward facing dog each time. Know that there should be no crunching in your lower back in that upward facing dog move. You have all the ability to listen to your felt sense, modify your body movements, and get the quality of from pubic bone to chin a stretch. Now here in this last one, come all the way down to the mat. Bring your forearms on the ground for Sphinx pose. Tops of your feet press into the floor, and it's so tempting to let all of the weight sag down into your lower back and your belly. Press the floor with your forearms. Just through your forearms toward the wall in front of you, much like you felt when we were doing the cat and cow stretches. Now the pit of your belly into your body and up to your ribs and chin. I can feel my abdominals coming off the ground. I'm more balanced now onto my pubic bone. I'm looking for a broad quality in the low back, while I feel a lot of support from my abdominals in the front. Now breathe and keep pulling back. So your arms have this quality of pulling back on the floor. Though you don't go anywhere, that tension gets created. So it feels like my chest is moving forward. If I were on slippier ground, I would slide. Breathe. Keep your belly strong and breathe in Sphinx pose. What's it gonna take from your body to ensure as you breathe, the quality of your back, bottom, ribs is where the feeling of a balloon expanding exists? For me, I have to decrease how much quality of back bend there is and allow for there to be more length. Lengthen the sides of my waist. One more breath, and then relax back down. Push into the floor, come up, kneel down in a tabletop. We'll thread the needle. So raise your right arm up to the ceiling. Now it's tempting to shift all your weight to the side and move to the side and overreach. Instead, let's take it this way. In fact, how about fingertips on the back of the head? Keep your knees even, weight even in both of your knees and a long flat back. Turn and open to the right. It won't be very much. I can feel the qualities of twist that I want to build for all of my twists. I feel this sense of like a hand right here under my left front ribs lifting while I turn my body to the right. My gaze has gone from the center to just off of my mat. Once you get there, take 3 breaths. One more. It's challenging. Bring your towel front and center. Now thread the right arm underneath of the left wrist. Bring your shoulder to the mat. Stretch your neck, rest your ear on the towel. You can move this hand off of the mat, your left hand, to add some pressure, but you want to keep the weight even in both of your knees. With any twist, you're moving toward the left, so your right front ribs resist the twist. Think of your right front ribs being supported back up and into your body. I'm just going to keep my gaze on my left fingertip and breathe. Keep on breathing, 2 knees, 2 sets of toes pressing into the floor while your hips just lift squarely up and away from the floor. The lift is really an important part of the twist. It stabilizes the base and allows for the rotation to move evenly up through the spine. And then all you have left to do is just breathe and intend for there to be an opening in your middle back. One more breath. Bring your hand in close for support. Press down, rise up, come to the tabletop into the neutral center. You might already notice an aliveness in your right back body that wasn't there before, and an ability to breathe more deeply on that side. So let's get the other side. And bring my right hand right under my right shoulder. Left fingertips gently behind my skull. Press down with 2 knees and 1 hand. Long and neutral. Take a breath in. And exhale, shift your gaze just off the mat to the left. Oh boy, 2 knees pressed down evenly, so both knees hold even weight. A quality of your right front ribs just keep lifting up. It's so tempting to let them sag down. Keep them lifting up and breathe right here. Eyes on one spot, just 2 more breaths. If you start to notice your shoulders creeping up to your ears, bring your eyes into the edge of the mat. Decrease how far you're rotating. 1 more breath, and then thread the needle. Reach your left hand behind your right wrist. Bring your left shoulder to the mat. Now stretch your neck long, rest your left ear on the mat. Right palm could go to the left palm. You could interlace your fingers, and your right hand can pull your left palm away from you. Now I can feel already my weight wanting to shift into my right knee. Concentrate on letting your left knee just sink heavy into the ground and breathe. Left knee sink heavy, both hips pull up and back toward the ceiling. Two more breaths. One more. Where do you feel the stretching as you body breathe as the balloon expands and relaxes? Support with your right hand. Come up and out of the pose, into the tabletop. Settle into your hands and your knees. Let's give that rolling wave one more try. Move your towel off of the mat. Scoot back so that you have some space. Hips back. Tuck your tail, lift the pit of your belly. Arch up. Shift your weight forward over your hands. Drop your hips down, soften your elbows. Chest forward. Roll back down to the ground. Inhale, lift up to the cobra pose and roll back down. 2 more times for the cobra pose. Roll up, look up and down. Last one. Roll up, look up. Now press your hands down. Come toward an upward dog-like movement. Tuck your chin, press the floor, lift the pit of your belly, and roll back. You might even start to notice the stretching in your lower back here. Come up to the tabletop. I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see where we're going with the gate pose. It might be handy to have a block nearby, so I'll bring the block close by to my left side. Come up and kneel on both knees, and if it's helpful to put a towel under your knees, you're certainly welcome to do that. Reach your right foot out to the side. You can rest on the flat of your foot, fingertips on the block to your side, and stand up tall. So you might need to just organize that your hips feel okay in the movement, and if a straight leg doesn't work, you can soften your knee. Now with your right arm, reach up, bend your elbow, cactus arm, up and overhead. Use this block for support and just breathe here. So straight leg is what we're looking for. It could be bent if need be. We're looking for some stretch all the way up through the side of your body. Now I'm going to turn and face another direction so you can see what the side of the body looks like. My foot out to the side. I've got my fingertips on the block. I don't want to rely on it too much. You can even start to notice how my torso is stacked straight up and down, different from my belly hanging out or my body curling around. I want to be tall from my knee to the crown of my head and reach up and overhead. Breathe right here. Now as I get into the pose, I want to avoid going for some sort of a back bend. I really want to stay lined up as though there's a wall right in front of me, one right behind me, and I don't have the ability to collapse forward or arc back, just straight to the side. Reach up and over, come up tall, and switch sides. You move the block to the other side. A long leg can be bent at first if need be. Pit of the belly tall, fingertips on the block. Reach to the side with a bent arm, and up and overhead for a gate pose. Stretching your lateral body. Remember, not curled forward, not arched back, and not a lot of weight on the block, just your fingertips.
Reach over as far as you can with your fingertips toward your foot for some tension so that you can bring yourself back up. 2 knees together. Let's take a seated twist. Sit down on your folded towel to elevate your hips a little bit. If you find you need something a little taller, that would work just fine as well. Sit crisscross legs and use whatever blocks you've got nearby to support knees that are hanging in the air. So a tall block if your knees are really high. In that case, you might like to lift your hips even higher. You want to feel both of your sitting bones on the ground and that you're sitting on top of them, not behind them. Already my spine is round and I want a tall spine. You've got your pole nearby. Pick up the pole and just measure from your tailbone to the crown of your head. I can just rest my 2 hands on top of the pole, palm to palm on the pole, and take a moment to acclimate. Do you notice that your tailbone area seems as though just above your tailbone, your sacrum is against the pole? So that'd be like the bottom bony area of your pelvis against the pole. Then you'll notice there's a little rounding in. Sit up really tall. Breathe until you feel your bottom ribs touching the pole. Now that's probably easy for some and hard for others. Next, as you breathe, just let the center of your chest sink back into your body. And then all the way up your spine that's between your shoulder blades, let it touch the pole. And then the top of your head, the back of your skull here, also on the pole. Breathe and get a sense of what it would be like to have all of that touching the pole and your arms overhead adds an extra dimension of challenge. You may notice that all of it doesn't touch the pole today or some days when you're feeling tighter, and that's no problem. You could modify this by not including your arms and instead sitting up against a corner in the room. So I could use the corner behind me because it's projecting outward, not a corner that's sinking in. Once you really establish this, you no longer are leaning back on the pole, back arching off of the pole. You really feel like you've established the back of the pelvis, the bottom ribs, the spine between the shoulder blades and the back of the head on the pole. And you're not leaning on your hands, not leaning on the pole, not leaning backwards. You really have your balance. Keep the whole spine. Keep sitting tall. Do you still have that? Sit up tall. Then take your golf club or your pole or your broomstick and bring this behind your shoulders. So from shoulder to shoulder with your wrist hanging over. Stay sitting tall. Breathe and allow across your collarbones and across your chest to stretch. For me, I automatically want to just push my ribs forward. Continue to keep the long body. Keep on breathing here. Now we'll add the simple twist. So notice the weight of your 2 sides of the pelvis. Sink down into the floor with the 2 sides of your pelvis and keep the weight even between the 2 sides. Imagine the pole is still down your spine. You want to keep it touching and connecting. If you had a partner, you could have a pole that's perpendicular, still in the original position from tail to crown, hooked in behind this pole that you're holding right now, and that would give you a lot of feedback about the position. And we learned in twisting, if I'm going to the right, my front left ribs resist the twist. So get that sense of a hand resting on your front left ribs gently and not allowing you to twist. Inhale and grow as tall as you're able to. Now just concentrate on the lowest part of your spine. Exhale, let that part rotate. Acclimate here, even weight in the 2 sides of your pelvis. Inhale, lift up tall. And exhale, start to rotate up through your soft abdomen area. Lift tall. Now through your ribs, start to rotate. This is where it gets tempting to throw your ribs forward and create an arching quality in your back body. Keep on working on it. You can keep your eyes still in their same gaze point in front of you. So you start working with your felt sense up through your spine. And some days when you're feeling tighter and can't get a sense of it, it could be helpful to just close your eyes. Turn off one of your senses. that you can turn up the volume on your felt sense. When you feel that you've hit your limit, let the twist move through your neck as far as it will go without arching your body forward or back, and then hold this position. So you're not going to be looking straight behind you, and that's okay. This is your natural rotation, your range for today. Now just breathe. We noticed in the threading the needle how the breath could give the quality of an expansion in your back opposite side ribs. So breathe right here and just look for opening, space being created in your lower back left rib cage. You can stay here for as long as it feels right. And what would right be? Right would be when you're at the edge of your comfort zone in the pose, breathing with ease, and your body relaxes. Can you achieve a quality of being aware of some kind of new space? I bet I could find that in about 10 breaths. Then work your way back to center, your gaze, shoulders, ribs, waist, pelvis. Reset, tall. Notice if you're forward on your sitting bones, backward on your sitting bones, on one more than the other. And then start the rotation in the low body, the middle body. Now I have that imagined sense of a hand resting on the front of my right ribs, preventing me from taking an arch. You might even just want to be active in your hands. I worked the other side with them relaxed. I could work them palms up and more active, and breathe. A lot of times we like to move in yoga class, and then there are also times where it's best to be still, to breathe, hold a position longer than you feel like holding it. So it's not just a task you're checking off. Rather just sit here and breathe and become aware of where there are limitations and if your breath can change that. Just get curious. Know that there's nothing wrong or broken in your body. It's exactly the way it should be. And then just notice what is and work with that. On this side, I feel a little extra tension in my right side of my neck. I know that's a spot where I always feel a little bit more. As I'm aware of the tension, I find myself sitting more on my left hip, so I'm gonna bring some attention to getting heavier in my right hip and relaxing, to being tall, and making space. And then after an endless, a timeless amount of time, a place where you work the breath until you find the result, when you're content, unwind, and bring yourself back to facing forward, gaze facing forward, and get still for a moment. Gently release the bar, take it to your side, and instead of automatically crouching your arms forward, something has changed in your shoulders. Let your chest stay expansive and open, and your arm bones settled onto your back body. Okay, next pose, hero pose. You'll still need a few of these tools. You can remove the towel, unless you have a lot of trouble with your knees today, and in which case you can roll the towel up in a long tube. Stand up tall, place this tube of a towel behind your knee joints, just tuck it in. Knees should be hip width distance or closer, toes turned under. If your ankles are uncomfortable today, the rolled up towel could be under your ankles, or if you had two towels, you could be in both positions. Then work towards sitting back. A tall block might be needed to support you. You might some days even be leaning forward on your hands, experiencing the stretch in your ankles, your knees, and then ultimately in time your quad muscles. Maybe you're able to sit up today, not belly sagging forward, pit of the belly in and the tall body we created in the twist. If that feels pretty comfortable, lower the height of the block. If that still feels really comfortable, you can lean back onto your fingertips. That would be far enough if there's a block underneath of your hips. You can ultimately remove the block and sit your hips on the floor. Now I'm gonna take this towel out from underneath of my ankles for this. Hips would go onto the floor. Never do the knees lift up or move wider than the hips. They can stay hip width distance. So now I've got more stretching in my ankles, knees, and quads, even my calves. You can use my palms or use your fists to press down into the arch and sit up. It's called hero pose, so sit like a hero. Breathe right here. What I have access to is I just sit here and breathe, whichever position I'm in. I feel more and more of this sense of my arm bones no longer pinned on the front of my torso, but a quality of them rooted into my back body without having to compensate by having my body arc forward. So it's straight and tall, eyes gazing on one point, and a steady breath. That's it, just keep your breath flowing. You'll know when it's time to complete this pose. You'll feel that you've gotten to the extent of growth and possibility in your knees and quads, and now it's just too much. Help yourself forward into the tabletop. Stretch one leg back at a time. Let the fluids flow in through your joints and bring some relief. And now we'll take camel pose. Stand on your knees, hip width distance. Hands like they're in imaginary back pocket, so your knees and feet press down while your chest lifts up and goes back. Look for a stretch from your chin down your chest all the way through to your knees. If there's a point in between where you don't feel like you're engaged in the stretch, like maybe your hips are back, and so I don't feel a stretch in my low belly, I know I need to fortify that and lift up and open. Hands to your hips, just keep breathing, and then come up out of this. Hands to the floor, tabletop, and stretch your legs back one at a time. Now next pose, we're going to need a few things. This is a locust pose. We'll take a block back here. We'll keep the bar or the golf club handy. Then lie down on your belly for locust pose. I want the block to end up between my ankles or even between my arches, but I think you'll find it easier to have the block end up between your ankles. Come down onto your belly. Now turn your toes under till you feel all 10 toe knuckles on the floor, not just your big toes, and hug the block between your ankles. Then stretch your torso long on the mat. Pause for a second and engage the pit of your belly so that you feel your pelvis not tilting forward into the mat, tilting back into a neutral position. So from your feet pressing back all the way up through your torso, you feel length and strength. Bring the golf club or the pole around. Tuck your chin so your neck is long. Now breathe and just assimilate to this long body. I'm gonna move my shoulders in circles and relax them. And take the bar gently behind the head, no pressure. And if you can't resist the pressure, take the bar even lower, just like we did in the seated twist. Stretch long and lift. I'm only moving my gaze about 3 inches more forward than where it is. The temptation is really here to squeeze my butt cheeks and drop my heels toward one another. I want to still feel all 10 toes on the ground. I want to still feel my belly, keeping my spine neutral, my pelvis neutral. And I can feel the work now from my heels up to the base of my skull. Just breathe for 2 more breaths. And relax down. Turn your cheek to one side. Relax your arms to the side. We'll do it one more time, this locust pose. So set up your legs. The bar not on the back of your neck. Stretch long and lift. Turn your eyes forward 3 more inches. Breathe here. Now keep your legs really strong. Tilt the bar, look to the right, breathe. You're gonna really need your abdominal muscles to stay strong. Come to the center. Tilt the bar, look to the left. So my right palm is now grazing the floor. My body is strong. My belly and ribs are in. Breathe, come back to the center. Relax down. You can remove the pole. Release the block. Come on up. Let's set up for fish pose. Fish pose, we'll line up a block long in the center. And this maybe is best to start with a more flat block and build up to the medium block. I'm gonna keep a second block available. So I kind of set up this T shape. This block goes between the shoulder blades, not in the low back. You might find it helpful to place a towel over this block that's long to cushion it a little bit. Sit down in front of the block, about 6 or so inches away. And then start to lower down gently until you feel the area of your middle back touching the block. And then recline over. This may be too much. You may need more support. You may keep the back block taller and let it sit right at the base of your skull. So there's a bit of traction or lengthening. Move your hips away, arms out to the side. So this you feel in your middle back, but you don't want to feel like the block is digging into you or you're unable to breathe. If that is the case, then we want to lower the center block, we want to soften it, use something even more soft like a stiff cushion from a couch. But ultimately this setting is generally good for most people. I can really feel the pressure right here in my middle back. Move your hips away, arms out to the side, a lot of support from your feet. You can set your gaze on one point on the ceiling or close your eyes. I often find it easier to connect to my felt sense when my eyes are closed. Concentrate on your breathing here. Inhale for 3 counts. Pause and hold your breath. And then exhale for 3 counts. Deep breath in. And deep breath out. Fish pose just gives us a little bit of time to set this pattern of being open across the chest, no longer so stiff and immobile in our middle body, particularly the back of it, and lets our arm bones continue to set themselves, root down into the back of our body rather than hang off the fronts of the shoulders. Let your abdominals relax. No need to hold them tight, and no need for them to press up to the ceiling. This is a great pose to hold for a timeless amount of time, meaning you hold it until it feels complete, different from until the timer rings. You'll know when you're finished. It'll no longer be a quality of being on the edge and opening. Instead, it'll be a sense of like too long in the space. Now, to get out of this pose, you need to proceed with caution and care. So you'll want to give support to an area that has really let go of a tight holding pattern. One hand under your skull at the top of your neck. Cradle it and hold the weight, and just gently lift your chin until you have enough support to roll off to the side. Move the blocks from beneath you, and then roll down onto your back in a really purposeful way, one bone at a time, until your whole body from hips to shoulders are along on the mat. You can in fact just keep your feet flat on the floor, move your arms out wide toward Shavasana, and maybe drop your knees in toward one another. It could be nice to have your feet resting up on a bench. I told you earlier, we'd maybe have the bench nearby, so I'll show you that option. I'd want to keep my towel rolled up, especially a smaller towel like a hand towel for underneath of my neck. So I'll just make a little roll here. So this will support my neck and my head can be on the rest of the towel. I want to be in close to the bench or chair so I can rest from the area of my knees through my calves to my heels. So I have a sense of my hips just sort of hanging down. If the proportion's not great, I could always put a blanket on the chair under my calves. So I want to really feel like I can let go from my knees through my shins to my heels. I want to feel like I can let go from my hips into the ground and my chest and shoulders into the ground. Arms out to the side. Eyes open and looking at that one point that's serving as your drishti, your soft gaze point. Keep letting your thigh bones get heavy down into the back of your pelvis, and the back of your pelvis broaden and melt. Let the back of your rib cage settle into the floor, the back of your shoulders and arms, the back of your skull, with your neck supported by your wrap, your wound up towel, your neck supported. Let the whole back of your body settle into the floor. This may take quite a few breaths. This is where practicing, where when you don't have anything you need to do afterwards, you don't have to worry about the finish time, this is where the benefit could be, as you just sit here, continuing to let your thigh bones sink, the back of your pelvis broaden and melt open. As your thigh bones sink and your pelvis opens, you could put your attention on your middle back where the bottom of your rib cage is, and keep breathing there and letting that part of your body open up with your breathing, get heavy and melt into the floor and be supported. After you've been resting here like this, and you start to feel a quality of weightlessness come over you, a sense of being supported by the floor, you're ready for what's next. Now you could use your club, your golf club, or your pole for this next part, or you can work without it or have a block between your hands. Bring the pole overhead and just gently hold on to it, not a tight grip, right over top of your shoulders, wrists right over top of your shoulders. As you breathe, let your arm bones sink down into the floor. So this is exactly like when we were in tabletop early on in the practice, and let the chest sink through the arms to the floor, and the arm bones, like a leopard, get tall to the ceiling. Same sense. Now be really aware of the back of the pelvis, the back of the rib cage, the shoulders, back of the head. All of it maximum melted to the floor and connected. Keep all of that. Don't change any of it. Move this bar, this golf club, just behind your vision, over your forehead, just 3 inches. Stay aware of the back of your rib cage, that your thigh bones still feel heavy, and come back up to center. And venture a little further, maybe 6 or 8 inches. Everything's still connected. You'll notice that your abdominal muscles probably start to activate a little bit, and that's fine. What we don't want is a tension building up in the front of your hips or your ribs lifting off the floor. So whole body long and anchored. Keep working back and forth, seeing how far the bar goes. It's not a goal to get the bar far. It's just to use the bar as a measure of how much you're able to keep the hip sockets relaxed and the whole back of the body rested on the mat. When I get right here where I'm just above my skull, my arms are not even by my ears yet, I start to feel the challenge in the back of my ribs. I want to keep them settled. Just keep working on the ease. Maybe you notice once your bar is behind your head and you're starting to bring it upright again, maybe you notice how a clenching in the fronts of your hips starts to happen. Can you keep that relaxed? What do you have to use to keep that area relaxed? I know I have to really use my lowest abdominal muscles. This exercise might not seem like a lot, but it's a lot. It's doing a lot to train your body to operate from your core and allow a really big muscle on either side of your torso to be relaxed. Your psoas. We stretched it from the side in the gate pose. Now we're trying to operate in a new way in the center of the body. Shoulders still on the floor, whole back of my body still on the floor. 10 or 15 times. You don't really need to count. Just be aware of how your body's working. And if you can feel a quality finally of weightlessness in your front hips, as the back of your hips are weighted and anchored to the floor. One more time. All the way up. And then you can release the bar. Hug your knees into your chest. Roll over to your side.
Take a moment here on your side. Let your body acclimate. Let it be still and steady. Press into the ground and come up to a sitting position.
Now we're going to finish this way. You'll want some way to elevate your hips and maybe a wall or a place to rest your upper back and some blocks for underneath of your knees. I'm going to use the bench, but you should use a wall. Hips on the folded blanket or towel, little support in the middle back, support under your knees. So I feel myself on my sitting bones, able to sit tall. Rest your palms on your thighs, whole body tall, and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and exhale through your mouth. Breathe and become aware of your hips sitting on the towel on the floor, and let the two sides of your pelvis anchor into the mat. Sink down your right side hip and your left side hip, and then both sides of your hips evenly settle them deep down into the floor. And then with an inhale, from your pelvic floor inhale, breathe up and lift up. A sense of lifting right from the base of your torso, right from the base of your body and your strength, up into the pit of your belly. And then as you exhale, soften and let your hips sink deep. Inhale, lift from the center of strength up through the pit of your belly, underneath your ribs. And from the edges of you, like a cascading, settling down, sinking down from your hips, your thighs, and your knees into the floor. As you inhale, you draw up from your pelvic floor, through your belly, through the bottom of your rib cage, up into the base of your neck. And from your sides, a settling down, your skin softening, settle down and sink into the floor. Inhale from your pelvic floor up through the pit of your belly, the bottom of your rib cage, the base of your neck, to the roof of your mouth, and soften from the edges of your skin, down your skin, from your hips into the floor. And inhale, lift, pelvic floor, pit of the belly, base of the ribs, base of the neck, roof of the mouth, crown of the head, lift. And exhale, soften down the edges of your body to the floor. Inhale, lift, up to the crown of your head, through the crown of your head, and soften down your sides. Just like that, keep breathing, inhaling and lifting. Through the crown, and then soften, pouring down the outer shell of you. Be aware of and notice the inhaling and the exhaling, the lifting and the softening. Few more breaths right here. Watch how your body changes as the balloon of your inhale blows up and it softens as you lift a quality of strength up through the center line of your body and allow for a softening around the edges. To deepen your breath, a deeper breath in, and exhale through your mouth. 2 more deep breath in, blow out, inhale, open your eyes, exhale, empty. Now sweep your arms over your head, stretch up, Hands to prayer position, tuck your chin, take a moment and set an intention for the rest of your day. One breath in, exhale. Thank you. See you next time.